Okay, so I was on a call with a partner of mine the other day and I asked him, I'm gonna record a video after this. What should I talk about when it comes to AI? He was telling me because he runs a cleaning company and he recently started running paid advertisement to his funnel and is getting about 50 to 60 lead opt-ins per day, which are requiring more information via email, and he's unclear on how we can, let's say, take care of this extra volume because he doesn't have the time of the day to answer 50 emails at once. So I was like, okay, I can create a video showing you how I would use AI for it. And simply put, this would be what I would do. So let's give a little bit of context. We have, let's say, a funnel here where people are coming here asking for more information, and then you have all of these emails coming out, and let's say it's 50 a day. So the first thing we would want to do is create a trigger. This trigger would capture this information of the email and send it to the first large language model. If you don't know what a large language model is, it's like Claude AI or ChatGPT, which is a company's, not a company's, but an actual brain that can process information. In this case, the information that we get via the trigger, which is the email, and come to conclusions and act upon that information. So this first large language model here, its job would be to understand the context of the email. Nothing much. So this would be prompted like, okay, look at this email, understand what the person is trying to ask us, what's their current situation, and things of that sort. And then we would move on to large language model 2. And before I explain this large language model 2, I want to explain something here on the large language model 1, which you could do something which via Google search and APIs you could see who the sender of the email was. Let's say it's Johnny Brown. Look him up on Google / look up his business or on LinkedIn and get information from the prospect. So this could be something that you could do so that in large language model 3, which you will see in a bit, your response would be way more personalized because you would actually go search up the person on the internet, understand what it does, therefore tailor your response to what that person does. But the step of large language model 1 would be to understand the context of the email. And you could do, again, let me recap, you could do that just by looking at the email or by looking at the email and also searching up the person online via APIs. On large language model 2, you would want to understand the question and be able to answer this. And in order to do this, you would need to create a knowledge base of your company, in this case, my partner's company. And this knowledge base very simply would include a general overview of what the company does. So for example, we are a cleaning company that operates from this time to this time in these locations. This is how our service works. This is the type of companies we work with. Our pricing varies between X and Y. We go to the place, you need to book 3 days in advance, and then a list of 50 to 100 questions and answers, so like the most frequent ones. Why? So that so in the first step, we understood the context of the email, the question. On the second step, we want to, one, use this information, so we would, on the inputs mention, large language model 1 is the question we are answering. In order to answer this question, go to the knowledge base. So this would be done through RAG. Go to the knowledge base, look at all the information that's there, and try to see if you have an answer for it. And now this is where it gets a little bit interesting. We would, let me get my pen, we would then create a router here, which is, if you think you have the answer to the question that the user is asking, and we would have to prompt it in a way where it wouldn't lie. If you think you have the answer to the question, and we would put the filter yes, move on to large language model 3. If you don't think you have the answer to the question, send me a message / an email on Slack saying what the answer was, so what the email was on step number 1, and telling me that you don't know how to answer it, so I can answer it. Why? We don't want the system that we would create for him, or in this case that the person, the CEO of the cleaning company would create, making up answers and responding via email with made up questions that don't actually answer the question of our user. Therefore, we would need to create this dividing step where, okay, if yes, let's move on. If no, send me an email with the information and I will take care of it. The same way you would do it if it was, for example, your copywriter or your sales rep or your customer success manager. If you don't know the answer, tell me, I will answer it, no problem. If you do, you have full autonomy to keep going and answer the question. Now, on large language model 3, keep in mind, so far we understood the question, we generated the answer. Now, on large language model 3, we would want to prompt it with copywriting practices in order to formulate an answer that would not be AI detectable and that sounds natural and that sounds like a human wrote it. And I have most of my content is around how to make this work, so how to create outputs that look like humans and not AI. You can recognize AI by the emojis, the transforms, unlocks, it's not about this, it's about that. And we don't want it. We want a simple email answering their question that looks like it was written by a human. And once this output was generated, then we would have two answers, two paths. You could either create a draft on your email and keep it as a draft, or you could automatically send it. This will depend on how well you can make step 3 work. Because if you see that the output that is generated is not usable and you need to edit, then you would go to this path here, which is save as a draft. If you are very good, let me remove this. If you, on the other hand, are very good at prompting and you are getting, yes, I'm liking it. If you are getting good outputs, you do this step down here, which is automatically send the email. Okay. Then, so this is the part where we would respond to the email. But now we want to add this to our CRM, for example. So let's say we're continuing in this. Then we would add modules, which is, okay, add this lead to CRM. Update contact information. And update with the email that we sent. And here you can do a lot of other things. For example, update what was the question they asked, what did we respond, when did we respond, when is the follow-ups due, all of those things. So this is adding to the CRM. And then you could also send, for example, an email to your team or ping your team on Slack or a VA saying, hey, we answered this, can you check it if it's correct? I don't know why I wrote EE, but this would pretty much what a AI system that could respond to the leads that come to your funnel look like. So first of all, you would have to understand the context of the email, because a large language model in it by itself, although it is trained on a lot of information, wouldn't understand an email where someone is asking, hey, just wondering, how do you do this type of cleaning? It wouldn't understand it. Why? Because the lead that opted in saw a specific funnel that a large language model doesn't have access to. Step number 2, you want the large language model to understand the context of your company in order to be able to formulate an answer to the question. And this would be done by leveraging a knowledge base. So most likely you would have to create this knowledge base. It's unlikely that you would have this. And you would have to properly structure and format the information in a way that a large language model would understand it. Step number 3 would be to routing this information. So if it's able to answer, which is what we want, perfect. Let's start creating an email that can actually be sent out and doesn't need to be edited. And this would be done with prompting in order to get a good copywriting output. And then again, we would have a different routing, which is okay, if the output is good, and you would do this in testing, because this wouldn't actually be a routing, this would be a decision of yours. If the output is good, which is what we are optimizing for, nice, send the email, add it to CRM, update it, and then ping whoever in your organization needs to be aware of this lead opt-in. If you're not comfortable with the email, you can always add it as a draft, which will save you a lot of time. At the end of the day, for example, you would get to your inbox and you would have, let's say, 50 drafts generated. You just need to run through them, edit the emails, and then send them out. But this is not what we want. We want to save as much time as possible. So it would be good to spend 2-3 additional hours in this step right here. So step number 3. Until you're at a point where you're like, okay, yes, this is consistently generating me outputs that are usable at scale. Therefore, I can add the module which is send an email automatically and not have to worry about creating drafts and then checking them at the end of the day. So I wanted to make this video, this kind of a real world use case that someone could use, whether it's a real estate company, whether it's a cleaning company, a plumber's business, whatever you can think of. If you have a large volume of emails that you are getting each day, this would be a good solution that you can build. And notice how on this email I didn't mention any tools, any tech stack. This could all be done on make.com or with agents, for example, or even with Stack AI. But the reason I didn't want to speak about platforms and tech stacks here is because I want to teach you how to think about solving these problems, not how to build it. Because how to build it, you have a lot of videos online, but how to think about them, you don't. So that is it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it and have a good day.